Good evening, and welcome to Tracking the Sun on a Flat Earth. This impromptu hangout has been brought about as a net result of Antonio Subratz and myself making some observations of the sun early in the morning. The main one being the fact that the sun seems to come up at different times for myself and Antonio Subratz, despite the fact that we're actually pretty much in a straight line directly below each other or above each other in the case of Antonio. And yet I get the sun about 35 minutes before Antonio does, which has prompted us to sort of figure out maybe a methodology in this particular hangout to tracking the sun and figuring out where it comes up perhaps on a future hangout. So the conversation we were actually discussing just before we went live was something completely different, and I think we'll start there, even though the subject is tracking the sun. So I'm going to hand over to Robert, who's going to tell us 2 or 3 words about a type of educational system that perhaps some of us might not be aware of. So Robert, if you can fill in some of the blanks you were just telling us about 5 minutes ago, that'd be great.
Yeah, the trivium and quantrivium is a form of education that a lot of the elites use, and they use it so they can get into power through the ability of speech, knowing words and understanding, and with that understanding having the ability to manipulate others, and that's why you see a lot of these elite psychopaths in power, because they're educated in such a manner that they can use their words to better ends, and you can see a lot of this if you watch the rhetoric and logical fallacies when you watch speeches from a lot of the presidents and leaders and world leaders. They all use certain words and phrases that will create an effect and an emotion in people for their own ends. And it's quite an interesting thing, and if people haven't looked into it, it's just a simple Google search to get that information. But as soon as you read it, it will open your eyes into a lot of the ways that they construct education and forward it on to everyone else in a constructed format that allows them to control the populace, have a governing factor that's more educated than the average person. So it's quite interesting.
Did you say that more it's a higher percentage of FBI agents are actually from this system of education? Is that right?
I would say they would learn from that because it allows them to, be more educated in probably checking out information and seeing through the deception of standard things when people aren't aware of what they're looking at or what they're hearing.
So it's essentially an education to give you more critical thinking.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reading's intense on it, and there's so much about it. But I think if you can break it up into learning the basic facts of what it is, and then going a bit further, it will enlighten everyone to what they hide, to what everyone should know, really.
Absolutely. Robin, you said you'd heard of this type of. You said it was homeschooling on the majority part. Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of homeschoolers I know use the Trivium program for their children's education, and there are even places like the state of Pennsylvania where they have very good public school system, but people still homeschool and teach this because it makes the children so much more competitive. So.
Cool. I mean, this is astonishing information. I mean, just before we went live, Robert was reading out some of the information. He's got on a little PDF, which we've all had shared to us now. I'm definitely going to read that as soon as the show finishes. But yeah, I don't know. Do you want to add anything to that before we actually get onto the main topic at hand?
Um, it's so complex and it's so vast that I wouldn't want to kind of belittle it by kind of commenting and not giving it the credit it deserves, which is, hangout in itself, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've only brought it up on the spur of the moment in the same ways we've done this hangout. Now, again, just before we went live, Robin, you were about to share some information that spun off the back of yesterday's, what would you call it, after show, I suppose, when we were chatting after we finished. Do you want to share that with us now?
Yeah, what happened was we were on the Skype, just a hangout on Skype talking about the show yesterday, and Nathan ended up pulling an all-nighter, and he was remarking that the sun was coming up, and I said, that's really strange because you're in central England, right? Warwickshire, is that in central England? Yeah, you're in central England, middle England, and
Yeah, right.
I'm in Seattle, and the sun isn't even. Yeah, and the sun isn't even down where I'm at, and so what I did was afterwards I plotted this out on a Gleason standard map. So I was just going to share that and have a look at it. So, okay, and here's the Gleason standard map, and I'm over here in Seattle, Washington, and Nathan is over here in England. And I drew 2 lines, and as you can see, they're almost equal distant because the determining factor as to whether the sun appears to set is how far distant it is from you, not over a curve. On a flat Earth concept, it's the distance of where it's either coming up as it's coming towards you or as it's going away from you. It's going, the distance is increasing, so it finally sets. And the sun really wasn't even on the horizon yet. It was still fairly high in the sky when the sun was rising in England. Now, if you, let's see, let me stop sharing that. Okay. I don't know if you have to say stop presenting, Nathan, but I think you have to cancel. For some reason, yeah. And but if you pull this up on Google Earth, I don't know if you can do that, but when you, I guess I could share that because I pulled it up on Google Earth, and there's no way on a globe that it works because you'd be over the curve from where I'm at, and I'm on the other side of the world, and the sun is actually still in the sky while it's rising in England, and so and also I looked at the time and date for my local area, and the sun actually set later and rose later according to time and date for my local area. So it seems to imply that at least the Seattle portion of the West Coast is further west than where it says, where it is on the map. In other words, it's further west than we realize it is. So,
which is a similar conclusion that Antonio and I have come up with. Don't know what the score is on that. If you can mute if you're not talking, that'd be handy, guys. Yeah, Antonio and I have come to the same conclusion. With him being more west than me, there's no other conclusion that we could draw. Would you agree, Antonio?
Well, I'm more north and west from where you are.
Slightly more. Yes, correct.
Yeah, but we're talking 100 miles between you and I.
Yeah, there really should be absolutely no difference in sunrise time for you and I, should there? I mean, if it's 5 minutes, that would be surprising, but half an hour is a bit weird, to say the least.
And we first noticed this on a hangout when we were just chatting on Skype. I noticed the sun was coming up where you were, and it was still black where I am. And that's what we first started noticing and started checking, and we've double checked lots of time. In fact, whenever we're awake at dawn, Nathan will say, "Okay, it's dawn now. The sky's starting to get blue," and I'll look at mine and nope. And it is about 35 minutes between the two.
Yeah, I mean, at first we just assumed that you were looking out the wrong window, or I was just, and then. After time, it became more and more apparent that this wasn't just a strange anomaly or some clouds that were more covering my area than yours. This happens every day.
Yeah.
Without exception. So yeah, it's bizarre. Did you manage to pull up that? Did you manage to pull up Google Earth, Robin?
Oh yeah, I can do that. I just reshare again here.
Yeah, it's just cool.
The problem with Google Earth is that because they're putting something physical onto something synthetic. What's the word? Damn it.
Rendered.
Yeah, but there's another word. Synthetic.
False.
Yeah, false. Okay, so they're taking something real, the real world, and they're rendering it onto something that can't represent that. So what they do, as you move around the globe, they render more ocean or less ocean, depending on how the real world reflects things. So Google Maps and Google Earth are going to distort things because they can only come to a kind of approximation. They can't come to something exact because the world is not a globe. So they will stretch oceans. You'll scroll around on the globe, and it will be on ocean, and there's Australia. They will just mold things, but because you have the one point of view, the 2D point of view, you can't see what's going on around the other side of the globe because it's not being rendered. You don't have any access to that. You can only see it when they start rendering it onto your side, and it's a trick. Well, go on, Robin, show if you've got it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to show you the difference, like where I don't see how the sun could be in England and Seattle at the same time. So here we go.
Trying to present you to everyone, Ryan. Let's just do that.
So, oh, did I not present? Can you see it?
No, you're sharing. Everything's good.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, let's go in just a touch. So here's Seattle right here, right there, and then as you go across from Seattle, where the sun is supposed to be, where it's, if you add like where it was supposed to be was over here near Thailand, right? So on the Tropic of Cancer, here's the Tropic of Cancer right here, goes over here, and from the direction that the sun was degrees-wise from my position, it appeared to be somewhere just off, in the South China Sea somewhere, or possibly near Thailand. So because of the degree or the angle that it took off from, that's on a flat Earth.
Yes, but on a flat Earth, but on this, Seattle is already beyond the curve.
Exactly.
And we're not looking at it from where the sun was, which was around the Thailand area. If we look at it from that point of view, it's even further beyond the...
I know, exactly. And then like here, the same thing in England, right? If you're in England, the sun is supposed to be coming up here, right? And even if like the sun would be, the only way that would work is if the sun was actually flat, because if you go back over here to Seattle again, right, the sun was at about, I'll just draw a line just so you know about where the sun was. So it was going out at about a 30-degree angle. So that would mean that the sun, let's see, the sun would have been going that way. That's the direction the sun was heading.
Yeah.
So and the thing is if it was on the Tropic of Cancer down here, the sun should at best be directly east. If it's like 93 million miles away, then it should be directly east. But 30 degrees north, even if they say, well, there's that 23-degree tilt, it wasn't 23 degrees, and it should have stayed at 23 degrees. Like say if it was 23 degrees, that would be about like this. and it would stay at that 23 degrees going directly out towards the sun. But the sun did not behave that way. The sun started at 23 degrees, and then it shifted and shifted until by the time it set, it was almost due north. It was like right about there.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, it just the light of the sun and its behavior is not consistent with a globe Earth.
Robin, will you scroll the globe so we have the North Pole in the center of the globe? I just think it's a really good way of illustrating. If you can then turn the globe a little bit clockwise so that Seattle moves up towards the left. Yeah, okay, so guys, see the line that a little bit back so that we can see England better.
Oh, okay. Let me just get rid of the ruler for a second here. Okay, there's England. There's Seattle. But at the time that the sun was supposed to be, you know, towards England, if you're looking this direction, right? The time it was supposed to be towards England, it, you know, that's when we were talking.
Uh-huh.
It was going out this direction. Well, it curves on the globe, but it was going out that direction.
Yeah.
So, and England is still around the curve. If you look over here, that means the sun is out basically kind of, I'll try to do a line to show the direction of the sun if it was 93 million miles away. Oops. It would be like that direction, right? But the thing is, well, actually more like that direction. But the thing is England is over the other side of the globe at that time, right? So the sun would be coming
through the globe.
Just
for people who don't know, Robin, can you just circle England with your mouse, just for anybody that doesn't know where it is?
Oh, England is right here. Let me see. Can you put a circle on there? I don't know how to do that. I'm kind of.
Well, that's fine, just as long as you've pointed it out.
Yeah, see, there's England, right? And the sun would be coming, okay, from here. So it would actually be coming like this direction. Okay, roughly that. If the angle was the same as it was in Seattle, and the sun and all the lines of the sun were parallel, this would be. It couldn't get around the curve of the globe.
Of course, it would have to have it for it to reach the UK and Seattle at the same time. It would have to be in more than one location.
Yeah, exactly. But again, on a flat Earth, it works just fine, and it totally makes sense why the sun is, because on a flat Earth, the position of the sun on the Tropic of Cancer would be equal distance from central England and Seattle. They're the same distance at a V in a V, as I showed on the other picture. So that would absolutely make sense, because on a flat Earth, it's the distance from the sun that causes it to rise or set. So,
Robert, do you have the drawing you showed me earlier?
Yeah, I do. This is one from the Worlds Beyond the Poles, and this is the slip that it's from. But what I've done is enlarged it and done it myself, so they can't do me when I put it on full screen for copyright.
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah, so so each edge you've got the ice rim, you've got the North Pole in the center, and then you've got the sun, and then obviously the angles, and that allows it to, 3,000 miles. That's approximately what they believe it could be.
Yeah.
And obviously that's on a 24,000 diameter disc.
That would be typical E-field radiation pattern, for like If electromagnetic emanation patterns would be that typical as you show there.
Sorry, Robin, can you give that a bit more substance?
Okay, well, you know, working with antennas a lot, that would be a typical strong radiation pattern. There would be possibly some side lobes, but the main transmission of electromagnetic energy would go in that pattern at about 45 degrees. So I think is that the angle you had, about 45? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it actually works. It just means that the sun is an electromagnetic radiator. It emits electromagnetic waves. So.
Sure. I mean, from this point, I kind of question whether or not. I mean, the whole point of this is to prove we're not on a globe, and with what we've just done, we've pretty much proved that. So, I mean, the original intention for this was to sort of maybe do it on a bigger scale, where we could have multiple participants on a set day that just, you know, have a random link sent to them if they want to participate, and literally they just film the sun and show us where the sun is at their particular location. Obviously, if there's other information that comes up on the Hangout. I mean, do you guys still think that's a good idea?
If what you're talking about is people around the world filming, so we have a stream, a 24-hour stream, where people film the sunrise wherever they are,
yeah,
or the sunset, or both. Okay, so if we have somebody here filming the sunrise, and somebody here filming the sunrise, and somebody here, as long as the stream is not uninterrupted, we'll be able to see how long it took to get from here to here to here, because the distribution that we have in this map is wrong. This is a false representation of the real world. Not just with the, you know, political lines, but the actual distribution is false. It's wrong. So we can we can demonstrate this ourselves. Just all flat earthers, anybody who has a camera and doesn't mind, or a laptop, and doesn't mind being up at dawn or at dusk, and just film the sun going down or coming up. We can corroborate with other people. Like last night, we were checking when the sun was coming up in the UK versus where the sun was setting in Seattle, and we established this distance can't be correct. There's no chance. It cannot be correct. So the distance, Seattle must be over here, closer to here. The distribution of the continents has been skewed. That's the thing. And the only way for us to determine how it's been skewed and how it actually is in the real world is with observations of the sun. And we're fortunate enough that we don't have to write letters to each other and calibrate things according to UTC and GMT, which shifts and blurs the lines. Instead, we can actually time it with a Hangout that goes on for 24 hours. Then we can see where the sun is, which is basically what Dr. Zach was doing.
Yeah,
Zach was asking for the same thing. So we can, if we just concentrate on sunrise and sunset from any location, we don't have to be there to determine when it's reached noon, because we can establish that noon is a midpoint between those two. So we don't have to sit with a watch.
The other thing too is if they don't have a camera, they can at least log on and say the sun is setting here, the local time is this, and I am at latitude this, longitude this. If you can, and you can get that from Google Earth, you can figure out what your latitude and longitude of your location is from Google Earth. I've done that before. I share, but all you have to do is make sure your latitude.
I think, Robin, it's something where, as long as we can, it's simple. Just asking people for longitude and latitude might throw people out. Whereas if you just say literally dawn or dusk,
where are you
log
at?
on, we'll
and where are you at?
Whatever, and then you just tell us what's happening. Potentially there'll be somebody there in the Hangout that can say, right, we can figure out here and now exactly where you are.
Also, if you're thinking of longitude and latitude, the longitude and latitude are skewed. Because the layout is skewed, they have to. So we can establish where the latitudes, longitudes are, if we want, but we can definitely establish the distance between the places because the sun travels
all we have to do is
an hour just over.
Yeah.
So
like if we have the city, I can say I'm near Bellevue, Washington, because that's the closest one where they actually have time and date. But I'm near Bellevue, Washington. So, and then the next person can say, well, I'm in Brisbane, Australia, or you know, even if they can't get a picture, at least they can report in and say the sun is just setting in Brisbane, Australia, or in Auckland, New Zealand. And we really need to get people from the southern regions, because I think that's where a lot of the skewing is really bad.
Yes, absolutely. We know a couple of people in Australia who are good with cameras anyway, luckily. And this is the thing, because like Mark Sargent used to refer to the hive mind, you know, it's just conscious human beings, all of us. If we have technology and we can use it to contribute, then it helps. There might be somebody in Nigeria, there might be somebody in India, you know. Now, I think that we'll have...
I know there's somebody in Brazil.
Say again?
Where, sorry? Nepal?
Yeah, there's somebody in Brazil, I know that. They have a little flat earth group down in Brazil.
Yes, they do. And in Argentina. But I think we'll have a little bit of a blackout around this area in terms of communication because of the different languages spoken, mainly. Whether or not there's censorship on YouTube or, you know, mechanisms to block, I don't know. But if we have enough people, we can establish, even if we could only establish half of the route, we've established half the route. Yeah. You know, the other half can be established by other people, or we can establish it later. But it's the distribution of the land masses. One of the things that people used to criticize the flat Earth is that the maps are wrong. When you turn to them and say, well, all the globe maps are wrong too, in fact, all maps are also wrong, they kind of shrug that off, you know. So they put the onus on us to present them with something that's real, true, and verifiable. Now, if you try to verify it with time and date, you've fallen for a trick. You can only verify it with real time, which is not so much time on their watch, but sunrise and sunset, that's real time. What your watch says is basically irrelevant.
Yeah.
We've found this as well.
Yeah, time and date
by virtue of having Google and Skype, we've figured out that we're always getting the time wrong in terms of, you know, coordinating times in different zones because of the various different skews that they make, summertime, wintertime, etc., etc. And the way the maps are skewed as well, this doesn't help. So just on one or two Skype conversations, you know, we take this technology for granted and we haven't had it for very long. But it's astonishing. The amount that we can achieve just by setting up a Google Hangout is quite phenomenal. Or Skype call or whatever, you know. But this technology, we criticize it all day long about the feedback, but it is amazing and very useful.
Yes.
Definitely, yep.
No, in fact, I think that Seattle is actually further north than it should be, because the sunset too sharply north. So Seattle may not only be further west supposed to be, but it also may be further north, based on the angle of the sun setting, because it's east. That's almost north. You know.
Yeah.
I anticipate with every single person that joins the Hangout at dawn or dusk, we will learn something new with every person. You know, I think it could have a huge amount of potential. It'll just take a certain amount of coordination and organisation. Obviously, there's an 8-hour limit on Google Plus Hangouts, but there's plenty of us. I mean, I think I sent out just for this Hangout about 36 invites to people that could potentially do this, that can run Hangouts, that have the understanding of how it works. And it's not that difficult to, you know, just chuck a link into your web browser, and most people have got a camera on their mobile device. You know, you can join these Hangouts with a mobile phone standing outside on a 4G connection. You know, you literally need nothing but a phone. So it's very doable, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Oh yeah. One housekeeping thing. This doesn't Google limit you to like 8 hours total for a hangout?
Yes, so there would have to be some overlap. There would have to be several people overlapping their hangouts so that there was technically a continuous feed. But I don't think that would be too difficult with a little bit of organisation. We're not stupid, let's face it.
Yeah, I mean, we could start one, and then Robbie could start one, and then somebody in New Zealand or Australia could start one, and basically we're covering just about the whole plane.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of 8 hours.
That would be amazing.
How about Nick?
Exactly, Nick in Thailand, in Phuket, would, you know, perfect.
Yeah.
We've got triangulation immediately just with Nick.
Yeah.
You've not added much as yet,
Well,
Robert. I know you had
also,
a lot
one
to
other-
say before we started. Did you want to add something at this point?
No, I just think it will work really well if we do multiple live hangouts everywhere and then just film it and record it and get it up. It's just going to make it so much clearer to what we're seeing and the distances rather than just guessing and assuming from what they've told us and what we see on time and date and the maps.
One other thing that I was thinking of is you mentioned people might be in a different language, so maybe we can tell if there are going to be bilingual or polylingual people on the hangout, so they won't feel uncomfortable. Like, say, Antonio, you speak Spanish, so Spanish-speaking people would, be comfortable coming on the hangout.
So there's most of South America speak Spanish, so that's cool, and there is a large contingent in Brazil speaking Portuguese, and in Argentina, and I've not heard too much from Chile or Peru, but there are people over there too who are looking at all of this, and I know this from somebody I know who's Argentinian. A lot of people, unfortunately, they just observe and they watch and they enjoy, but they don't really produce content. So whether or not they would come on, that's another matter. But
I disagree. Sorry to interrupt. I think there's plenty of content providers. I think we could do this just with YouTube producers, just people who are producing videos right here, right now. I think we could achieve great things without having to rely on people who don't want to partake. They just want to watch. I'm going to actually... I know this is going to sound like an infomercial, but because we've got people who've just joined us, I just want to go through exactly what we're talking about again. So this is like a bit of a rolling commercial for what we're doing. So to anybody who's just joined, the reason for this impromptu hangout is because after some minor observations that Antonio made out of my window on a Skype call, we basically noticed that the sun was coming up at very different times, and Antonio and I are only about 100 miles apart. Therefore, there really shouldn't be any difference. 5 minutes would be extreme based on the way things are mapped out, but it's not. What we observed was about half an hour difference between the sun coming up here lower down in England than it coming up in Manchester further up on up in England. Now, yesterday, after the hangout on 9/11, false flags, hoaxes, we pretty much did the same thing, but slightly different, with Robin in Seattle noticing that the sun was just going down as the sun was just coming up here in the UK, or at least it was for me, not for Antonio. That has now spun into us having the idea that if we have multiple hangouts, at all 4 corners of the globe, we could potentially learn quite a lot of information just from where the sun is going down and where the sun is coming up. That's pretty much all the information that we want. So this is kind of a rolling advert to put this idea out there, mainly into the minds of people who are currently making videos anyway, and certainly have the know-how and understanding of using technology such as Google+, to basically do a mass experiment in real time to see what the sun is actually doing. So there goes my infomercial bit over again. You'll hear that probably again in 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's also Gandhi, whose mother's Chinese, so he can help with the people in the Orient. Just anybody really, anybody from around the world can contribute.
Robert,
I can help with anybody.
Again,
sorry,
Robin?
Robbie, can you repeat that?
I said I can help with anybody who speaks Italian. So.
I think Andrea Sensi can help with that too.
Well, this is something that, again, I say this in all seriousness. No. In all seriousness, there's a common goal here, and for things like this, we have to set aside differences just for the greater good. If there's somebody in the location that we all despise or that despises us, they have to set that aside and just say, I just want to pass on the information because it's useful, and forget differences. Hopefully, I'm not doing this for kumbaya and to create unity amongst people that we may have had differences before in the past. It's just purely information gathering. And I'm not interested in any differences that people may have had. I just want people to partake for the information, and that's it. Robert, did you have some pictures that you wanted to share? I know you said before the show that you had a few bits and bobs that you wanted to share with us.
Yeah. If I can just say Rob, before you go into this, because it will have relevance. One of the things that this will help establish when we're looking around the world. And it's unfortunately something that is important, even though you have to go and find your elevation. So where you are, if you're at the beach versus you're in the mountains, what your elevation is from sea level.
Yeah.
We can check. It should be the higher you are, the sooner you get to see the sunset or the sunrise. But it doesn't seem to work that way because Nathan is lower down than I am in terms of elevation on sea level, but he still gets the sun before I do. So, in terms of, if I can just draw a diagram, if somebody's watching here, if the sun is coming from that direction, this person should see the sun before this one. Yes. Because, perspective dictates, something high up in the air is going to show here before it shows here. And this is one thing that we can also help establish, whether or not elevation has this effect.
Yeah, it will definitely clear up that facts because we'll have the information, we'll have the clear evidence of what's happening, rather than just guessing, assuming, and not actually knowing and just going on opinions of other people. We'll have a kind of group opinion because it'll all be factual what's happening, and it's live. That's the way.
Yeah.
Best way.
Yeah. The only other thing I can think of is, like, some people, I've noticed this when I've done Hangout, some people are shy to actually come on the Hangout. So we might ask if they feel too shy to come on the Hangout, they could post their information in the chat, or something like that. Because I've had that happen before.
They can come on the Hangout and just talk. Don't show their picture, but they can still share if they're not showing their camera. They can still share their book. Yeah. Yeah. So you can do this, and then if you've captured the sun setting or rising, just play that little clip. It's not as complicated as it might sound.
Yeah. Plus, if you're joining the Hangout with your front camera on a phone, you can literally start by sharing your image of the sun. If you did nothing more than come in the Hangout for 10 seconds and share your picture of the sun, that would be sufficient, as long as we found out where you were, of course. But yeah, so it's one where there's potential for lots of people to take part in this, even on every little helps, as they say.
Right. I mean, I did a little impromptu Hangout this morning, just as I arrived at work doing a job. I was talking to Justin in America and did a quick one there. So yeah, you can do multiple Hangouts with multiple people and link it up and then record the data. It's easy. It's easy to do.
The imperative thing is that the image be shown live. So whilst you're talking, you show, because we know that there are people out there who are going to try to, excuse my French, fuck about with the results and will record footage and then call and say the sun's just going down now. So what we need is actual live. We have to be able to tell that it's live.
Yes.
That's right.
How would you?
The delay will be so minimal. It will be very accurate, even if it's 5-10 seconds delay. That's it, nothing compared to it. We're getting it live everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you guys feel about, as this is technically like a rolling advert now, how would you feel about actually, discussing a date that we can actually do this, so that we've got so we make some progress here? That's what I'm kind of getting at.
Well, we could use one of the...
It should be soon.
Come on, Robin.
Yeah, it should be soon, because we're close to the summer solstice, and I think we would get the most dramatic results at the solstice, at the equinox, and maybe we can do another one again at the winter solstice. So.
Mm-hmm.
How soon is soon? We're talking a week, a month, a day?
I'm just checking now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind if there's lots of dead air while we, on this hangout, work out what we're going to do. I know for a fact that when we do this, there'll be a whole heap of dead air, so it's one of those. What are you thinking?
I'm checking the equinox right now, which is the 20th. Okay.
It's past.
Yeah. So summer solstice.
We're close to the summer solstice just happened. I mean, it just happened. So if we can do it within the week, we'll capture the act of the solstice.
So, I mean, from reading this on the poles, Worlds Beyond the Poles, it says on the March the 21st and 22nd, the sun is directly above the equator, as seen as 45 degrees above the horizon at 45 degrees north and south latitude. So whether that's the time to do it or whether we just do it and then just work out from that date, I don't think a date matters. I think doing it live matters. That will tell us more.
Yeah, because we'd have to extrapolate. If we did it whilst the sun is directly over the equator, we would then have to extrapolate what's happening at other times of the year. In fact, we could do this every month if we wanted, or every 3 months, to see what the differences are.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, how would you guys feel about setting the date maybe a week from today, or maybe a weekend would be better, so that there's more likelihood of people actually being able to take part?
Yeah. Why not?
What day is it today? It's Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Why not sooner? Closer to the equinox, the better. Why don't we say Sunday?
Yeah.
Or Saturday.
I'm away at the Bedford level.
Oh, of course, yes. Well, how about 10 days then? So if we say a week on Sunday.
Yeah.
Which would be let's just look at it on my phone. What date is that?
The 3rd.
The 1st?
3rd of July.
Perfect. That's a nice, easy, memorable date. So that's now set. Sunday the 1st. Would we start it at...
Third.
Did you say 3rd? Oh, right, that's not not quite so easy to remember. Okay, so Sunday the 3rd of July 2016, we will conduct the first ever Tracking the Sun on a Flat Earth experiment. Hopefully we'll get lots of participants. I'm hoping everybody here, us 4 at least, will do some sort of advertising to get this information out there so people know.
Yeah. Can we have a show?
Hang out for a week Sunday.
Sorry, Nathan. Can we have a show of hands? Will you type 1 or type X in the chat if you're happy to participate?
There'll be a slight delay while they hear that. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Robert.
That was Robert.
So, this is what we're asking. Joseph Brook, brilliant. Halcyon HB, Discover. Wow, lots of people. Brilliant.
Excellent. Everyone's keen. That's what we want to see.
And this is what we're asking for. Either dawn as the sun rises, so not the blue sky but the actual sun, or dusk when the sun sets, or both. But don't feel obliged if you capture the dawn, don't feel obliged to then also have to capture the sunset. And what we'll do is we will spread around the different hangouts that will be happening pertaining to this. So at the end of one hangout, we'll announce the next hangout that to overlap. We'll say, David Weiss has got a hangout working now. Here's the link for anybody who wants to contribute, and we'll overlap hangouts, and each hangout will give the details for the next hangout.
That's right, and another way we could do it is if you've got a hangout running, we can also communicate via the main people to communicate with all the groups via Skype. So you could have all the group discussion and then a core group to say what's happening with all the other places. So it's just a way of catching up without coming out of the Hangout, you can go into a different form, of communication to get the message across what's happening elsewhere. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
Now, if I can be a real pain in the backside, can I ask everybody who typed X to please type your location, just so we have a general approximation of where people will be?
And isn't this so cool that we can just literally ask, a group of people watching, A, if they'll participate, B, where they are located, and we can find that out information immediately. And I just think that's so cool.
Rory McFace is joining us. Montreal. Wait, let me slow down. So we have Montreal,
Stockport, Toronto,
Central New York State,
Elliott Hall, California,
Scotland, Brighton, the Moon, Italy.
Somebody, Eric Wimp in Stockport. I'm in Stockport.
Very handy.
Yeah.
He can be your man on the ground.
Come round for a cup of tea or coffee.
It's a smaller plane than we realised.
Florida.
Florida, New Zealand. Brilliant.
Excellent.
Is anybody recording these?
Manchester, UK. No, it's just basically to see.
Just to get an idea.
Deep inside of the rabbit holes in Antarctica.
Oh, brilliant. That's what we need.
South Wales. Oh, yes, Martin's in Wales too. Brilliant.
Excellent.
That's tricky.
Okay, well, I'm going to give out my email address so that if there's anybody that wants to get in touch. Go on, Antonius.
South Africa. We have Indigo Grim in South Africa.
Right. So, yes, anybody who has just literally put an X or given your location, my email address is nathanoakley1980@aol.com. So exactly the same as my screen name, but with @aol.com. If you drop me a line, I don't know if it will be me that starts at the first Hangout, but if so, and you want to participate in that, drop me a line. After this Hangout is concluded, we'll put more information onto Skype and hopefully coordinate with some of the YouTubers to work out who else is going to run these Hangouts. Again, hopefully everyone will be keen to actually participate and run these things, dull and time-consuming though they will be. Okay, is there anything else you guys want to add? Because I'm quite happy at this stage that we've achieved what this Hangout was designed to achieve.
If I can just jump in, I can just, it's just nice seeing in the chat. We also have Johannes from Norway, and we have Joey Rocha from Hawaii. So, it's nice.
Yeah, that's a good cover, good coverage.
Excellent coverage. I'm surprised. I thought it would just all be US and UK. So,
that's right. And,
wow.
And once the knowledge gets out and everyone's even more aware, might even have more.
Yeah.
Covering even more area.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine the first time we do this, it will be a mess. There will be things that go wrong. It won't be, as perfect as we would ever hope. But you've got to start somewhere, and that's basically what we're doing. So yeah, just to round out, I'm going to explain again what we're doing and why we're doing this, which is that we are going to be tracking the sun. So we are hoping to hold multiple Hangouts, one after the next, in 8-hour chunks hosted by various different YouTubers who have Flat Earth channels and are acquainted with running Hangouts, and we will be inviting one and all in all locations on all 4 corners of the globe to join the Hangout and literally film the dusk or the dawn and present live data, so the sun there and then when it happens on this Hangout. So you don't have to present your face, you just need to tell us where you are and show us the sun. It will be as simple as that. We can, or whoever's on the Hangout will do the rest and live figure out exactly where your location, elevation, longitude, latitude. We'll figure all that potentially out for you. If you've got that information when you come, absolutely fantastic. That will then be logged on a live Hangout for people to look at afterwards, and hopefully we'll make some good discoveries actually live on the air. We'll figure some stuff out as Robin, Antonio, and I have done already. This is how this all started. Just again to reiterate what Antonio and I did. So we saw, or Antonio saw out of my window that the sun had come up before it had come up for him. So it was then not a rolling joke, but every morning when we do these all-night Skype calls would notice pretty much every morning that the sun was coming up at my location 30 minutes prior to it was coming up 100 miles north in Antonio's location. And yesterday, so Robin Poe pretty much did a similar thing, but the other way around, which was to say that she saw the sun going down in Seattle as the sun came up here in the UK, or at least for me here in Warwickshire. So it's one where it conclusively already proves that we don't live on a globe, but it would be nice to have some more information so we can track where the sun is going and hopefully figure out, you know, distances between land masses. We don't know what we will learn at this stage. We hope to learn a lot. So yeah. Anything else you want to add to that, guys?
I just want to add, it's a tangent from what we're talking about, but I urge everybody who has not already seen Fouquet Word's latest series of videos to go to his channel and enjoy watching, because he gives some really good explanations, very good descriptions and examples that will help you explain things to other people. Also, it will help you to understand some things like it did me, but just absolutely stunning, very, very good. So please, anybody who has not watched Fouquet Word's latest series of videos, go and watch them. And the same with Brian Mullen. But Fouquet Word, just simple, enjoy it, enjoy.
So Robert, can you just again share with us your diagram once more before anybody who hasn't, who joined us late? I'll just stick the screen on you. Can you just explain what you're showing us there, if you would?
He's got his mic on mute.
You're muted, Robert.
There we go. Okay, this is the side elevation of what the flat Earth diagram of where the sun should be and the height. And the mathematics works out to it being roughly, in their opinion, about 3,000 miles on a 24,000 mile diameter disk. So you've got the ice rim at the edge, you've got the equator in between the North Pole, which is round about there. So I've got my finger. North Pole is there, and the equator is obviously in between that point and there. So they've worked out the distance on the equinox, which is the 21st, 22nd of March, where everything should be, and that works out perfectly on the flat map.
Also, for anybody watching this thinking, hold on, if that's correct, then from the North Pole or the South Pole, the sun should be very high up in the sky. You have to bear in mind, when you think in terms of high up in the sky, you're talking in terms of the horizon. And even though we have all perspective telling us that the horizon is eye level, the actual horizon, the actual line of perspective, if anybody wants to go and see PK or P-Brain, the actual line between us and the horizon is actually, it's slightly concave. This is the shape. We look up just slightly. It's very, very slightly. So when you take this into account and you see Robert's drawing again, and you think of the height over the equator from the North Pole, you have to remember that the horizon from the North Pole is just slightly elevated. And this is all to do with light bouncing from surfaces and various different things. It's not because we're on a concave hermoidal Earth.
Cool. So I'm going to say it one last time. So on Sunday, the 3rd of July, 2016, we're going to be holding lots and lots of hangouts around the clock to track the sun coming up and going down at various different points on the globe. We're hoping everybody will take part. In the meantime, I'm going to say a massive thank you to all of the people who've joined me on the panel tonight. So Robin Poe, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks, Nathan, for having me.
It's a pleasure. And Robert Shortman, again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
And last but not least, Antonio Subrat. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you. You always disagree with me. We're not checking the sunset and sunrise on the globe. We're checking the sunset and sunrise on the Earth.
Absolutely correct, and what a superb correction that was. So, to all of you who've joined us on this impromptu impromptu hangout for tracking the sun on a flat Earth, I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.